Call this meeting of the Fremont County Board of Commissioners to order. If you'll please rise and join us for the invocation from Todd Luce from the Grandview Christian Church, followed by the pledge.
Good morning, folks. Would you bow with me, please? Gracious Heavenly Father, we come before you today, and I ask your blessing upon this meeting and the time that's spent here. Lord, I pray that you'll be with the commissioners and all those that are working, that you would keep them safe. Lord, give the commissioners wisdom and understanding as they do what's best for our county and the people in this county. We thank you and give you praise in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Todd. Roll call, please.
Commissioner McFall.
Present.
Commissioner Bell.
Present.
Commissioner Grantham.
Here.
County Attorney Jackson.
Present.
County Manager Bryant.
Present.
Planning and Zoning Director Garrett.
Present.
Okay, we move on to approval of the agenda. I do not know of any changes.
Mr. Chair, I am unaware of any changes for today's agenda also, so I move to approve as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Commissioner Grantham. Aye. Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Motion carries.
On to the consent agenda. We'll note that we are scheduling a public hearing March 23rd at 10 o'clock. It's a hearing on a renewal of a liquor license for PS Camping Incorporated.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval of the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Has been moved and seconded for approval of the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Grantham. Aye. Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Motion carries.
We move on to administrative and informational, and we're going to start with our county clerk's monthly report. Mr. Grantham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. The total motor vehicle fees, sales tax, and recording fees collected for February of this year are $1,267,567.39. Of that, Fremont County's portion is $758,232.70, which is a 60% of the total fees and is a $242,303.36 more than last February. Year to date, our office is ahead $269,399.46.
Wow.
Answer. Stimulus money coming through, taxes are being done, they were getting their money back from the IRS. That's a big chunk of a down payment for cars.
Evidently. Wow.
The really interesting thing for me reading this is we saw a lot of decreases over the months last year after COVID-19 hit. But February of 2020 was really before we had any shutdowns, before anyone knew what was coming down the pike at us, and that's a huge number for an increase from year over year.
And it's been a pretty mild winter as well, so people can walk those lots. So,
The lots are pretty empty, though, too, as well. So,
yes, they are.
Yeah, must be selling.
All right, well, thank you for that, Mr. Clerk. And Mr. Chair, I move to accept the county clerk's monthly report for the month of February 2021.
Second.
Has been moved and seconded to accept the clerk's February monthly report. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Commissioner Grantham.
Aye.
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Move on to the county manager, Ms. Sunny Bryant, and her report. Good morning.
Good morning, thank you. So just a couple of quick updates. We continue to do the construction of the second floor out at the Judicial Center. So that project is well underway and is scheduled to be finished the middle of April. We're adding a courtroom just to accommodate the increase in cases, and that'll help a lot too with any of the social distancing requirements and everything through COVID. We will be receiving the 95% completion drawings for the Pathfinder Park Community Center later in this week or next week. They're finalizing a couple of additional items. And so we will have that project actually underway and finished in October. So we're very excited to get that building put up. We did a groundbreaking ceremony on March 2nd, and that was pretty exciting to get out there and actually get that process started. We are actually in the process of finalizing the reservation fees, schedules, all of the forms for that building as well, because we've already started getting phone calls from people that are interested in having events there. And so we're working on finalizing that information. And then last, our noxious weed department and emergency management is ready to move out to the 1901 East Main Street building. And so that we're scheduled to move the week of the 22nd, and so that process will be well underway. So if you're needing to contact either of those departments, they will be at a new location here over the next couple of weeks. That's all I have.
The Fremont County Emergency Response Building. Noxious weeds are not necessarily an emergency, but could be. Thank you. All right. Now I'll ask Ms. Kayla Marler, she's our Public Health Director, to come up for an update. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to give you some great data, because that's what we all love. As of this morning, we have 34 active cases within Fremont County. We're starting to see that number continuously go down, so this is great. We have no new DOC cases. We have 33 active hospitalizations and a total of 52 deaths. We were able to go ahead and break down those that have, passed away. We have 20 that were out of our long-term care facilities. We have 12 that were out of our DOC, which is also including our federal prison, and we have 20 community members. Our breakdown for our hospitalizations, we have 10 that were long-term care facility members or residents. We have 22 that are DOC, and we have 108 that have been community. And that's, our hospital breakdown is for the entire period of COVID. Currently, we have conducted, with the assistance of MACO, as of Monday, 13,490 tests. We're also seeing that those tests, the amount of individuals that are getting tested, we're seeing those go down as the days progress. Also, we did get information from the state that we do have MACO here in Fremont County until June 30th. So they have extended that contract even more, which I do want to note, this is at no cost to the county. This is complete support from CDPHE. Roughly the amount of immunizations that we have provided through FCDPHE, and that is the health department only, these are both first and second doses, is roughly 5,390. So we are definitely doing great on that. We are doing our second dose clinic from February the 13th on Saturday, so we will be vaccinating roughly 1,400. We have had to, because of the weather that we might be getting, we are not able to get our big event tent, and plus we did have some of our immunizations freeze at our last clinic on February 13th, so we are moving that into a walk-in clinic at Harrison. So whether we get a foot of snow or not, we are having the event. If individuals are not able to attend, then they can call the health department and we will reschedule them. So. Also, I wanted to note that because of our declaration of emergency here in Fremont County that our county commissioners have voted upon, we continue to get COVID relief funding. As of right now, we are working on ELC funding, which you're gonna have to bear with me on this one. It's enhancing detection through COVID response and relief funds. We received this earlier on, I believe, I want to say July 1st. It was before me.
Roughly, yeah.
We received $598,659. We're currently working on that. And then we are waiting to receive additional ELC funding. This funding is running from January 1st of this year all the way through June of 2023. So they've extended it from 2022 to 2023. We have not received that funding yet, nor have we received the amount that we are to receive. Also, because of that declaration of emergency, we're also waiting to find out how much COVID vaccine supplement funding that we will be receiving. And they're still waiting to figure out how they're going to allocate that out to the counties. So we are able to go and backdate some of our COVID relief back to January 15th. So I don't have exact numbers on those upcoming fundings, but that we are to receive. However, we're supposed to receive some more money.
When it's significant, I mean, it's not just a little bit, I mean, it's,
Yeah, I mean, I'm expecting on that second round of ELC for us to receive roughly the same amount that we received on that first round, so a little under 600,000.
that's awesome, those numbers are great. Are you still having trouble getting the vaccines like you were before?
We are back to that, yes.
Yeah.
We were doing great, and now we're seeing where we're struggling. We're not getting our full order. I know we ordered 900 last week. We received 200.
Wow.
So reached out to the state, which was also really interesting. I do want to know, that new phase opened up March 5th. We seen a large amount of Metro residents coming to Fremont County. Up to 61% were taking up our clinics. And so we've been able to do some adjustments and everything, which, we have to provide them with the vaccine. We cannot turn them down because of the federal program. However, that just shows us that, we do have that large amount coming from Metro. So, when Fremont County asks for 900, we need 900. So definitely working with General Sherman to start getting our orders filled.
We've been talking about that in state meetings and federal meetings as well, and I guess it goes to you and your staff and emergency manager Michael Crow, who set up these events. It's so efficient, so well done, that people are hearing about it and they're coming down here because they know they're going to get a shot in a timely manner if we have the vaccines. So that says a lot about you guys. I know that's not good for our residents because they're butting in, so to speak.
Yeah.
But we've made that aware on the state and national level. So I don't know if there's anything that's going to change with that, other than maybe we'll get the vaccines that are needed for it. But it's a great job by you guys for doing what you're doing.
Yeah, and if Fremont County residents, if they go on Prep Mod, they don't see a clinic, call our health department. We do have some clinics set aside just for Fremont County residents. And so that is our way of being able to put them at the forefront and vaccinate them.
Thank you for doing that. I think that's really important. As our chairman said, we have been having this discussion, first of all, with the state for a very long time. We understand their stance that everyone needs to be vaccinated. We are all Americans. But we also understand that the people who live here need to be vaccinated here.
Yes.
And so we're continuing to fight very hard for them. Had a conversation with someone at the White House just yesterday and brought this up. She had no idea what I was talking about, and her only response was, I will look into this, because she really didn't know that was happening. So
Yeah.
we'll see if we get a response or not, but we're still out there fighting.
Well, and that person is a direct contact to the Corona task force that they have at the White House. So hopefully that'll make some waves there, hopefully.
I do also know, I talked to Randy over in Pueblo County, the public health director over there. The state's coming in and putting several equity clinics up in Pueblo County. And so I am expecting that a lot of those individuals that are coming from the metro area will go to Pueblo County and, not funnel into Fremont County. And so, they're looking with those equity clinics of possibly vaccinating 6,000 people a day.
Wow.
So
Those are FEMA sites, correct?
both CDPHE and both here and there,
Both.
FEMA, yeah. So I don't know exactly which ones, we know what entities coming in, but it is a split between this Colorado, CDPHE and FEMA.
That's great.
So-
Any other comments or questions for Kayla? Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you very
being here.
much. It's
Thanks.
good news. It's always good when we hear our numbers keep dropping, and hopefully they'll go away soon.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll open it up to anyone else that might have something to say.
I
Commissioner
don't
Bell.
understand why he's looking at me as he says that. Tagging on to what we were just talking about with COVID and some of the finances, many of you likely are aware that the new stimulus package is a huge package, and it includes not only COVID money, but a lot of other things as well, which personally I think they could cut out probably at least 75% of. But The new stimulus package is working its way through the process in Washington, D.C., and I think for me the most exciting part of this package is it would include direct payments to counties this time. Last time, as you recall, any county with a population under 500,000, we had to fight with the state for that money, and that fight literally took months for us to get through. So I'm still arguing it was a fight we never should have had. We should have had access directly to that same money that our larger communities here in Colorado had. But this time that actually is going to happen, and so we're very, very grateful for that. We also just, the other note I would like to make is we continue to work with the state and with the feds pretty much at every turn. It seems like this is the season, all of the legislation is happening, especially at the state. We are going to be discussing a couple of those things that we've been fighting back on here later in our meeting today, but it's just been incredibly busy for all of us. So, thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Grantham?
No, sir.
I just want to say one thing, and I haven't said it for a couple of months, but we got to watch out for fire danger. It's dry out there. The winds are blowing. Hopefully we get that moisture that's called for this weekend, I think, but it's still very dry out there, so just be very careful when you're out enjoying the outdoors or whatever you're doing. There's a lot of agriculture burning starting to happen. Those guys are usually pretty safe when they're doing it, but you just never know when something could get away. So be very careful out there because the fire danger is high and moisture content is low. So pray for rain, pray for snow, and hope we get some of that. Anyone else? Okay. This is the point where if there's any citizens who wish to address the commissioners and you're not on the agenda, now is the time for that. Anyone? Okay. Moving on. Now the fun stuff. We have no old business, so we'll move right into new business. First of all, we talked about it a little bit, or Kayla did, and the local disaster emergency declaration that we have in place. I believe it was in a meeting last month. We voted to let that renew on its own without having special meetings for that. And we're going to continue to do that as long as the state of Colorado is also in an disaster emergency declaration. And what that does is allow us those funds that are available from the state and federal governments. So as you heard Kayla talk, there's a significant amount of money coming through those funds, and it is because of that declaration. There's other stuff in there that some of us don't agree with, but it's part of the package, which is the mass, which the governor has that in there too. A few other things, but we just want to keep that on the forefront, that is still in place and will renew on its own. Is there any further discussion on that? Okay. Hearing none, we will move on to number 2. This is a resolution recognizing the many past and current contributions of the Fremont Cattlemen's Association, Fremont Cattlewomen's Association, and other meat producers in supporting the local ranching industry. We have a resolution, and I'm going to ask Commissioner Bell if she would read this resolution, and then we'll have discussion.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to preface this, first of all, by thanking Governor Polis for becoming the Meat Salesman of the Year for 2021. He took action a couple of weeks ago to declare throughout Colorado March 20th of 21 as Meat Out Day. And that means none of us are supposed to eat beef, meat, chicken, veal, pork, any of those sorts of things. And whether or not it was intended as a direct attack and an insult to those producers, I can tell you personally, those people took it personally. They felt as though it was a direct attack, excuse me, on them, on their way of life, on the industry that they have invested their entire lives and livelihood into, and that's something that we believed we could not take lightly. So we joined a host of other counties throughout Colorado who are doing their own declarations and proclamations to change March 20th from Meat Out Day. So this is our response, and so yes, now I would like to read this to you. This will be resolution number
14.
Okay. Recognizing the many past and current contributions of Fremont Cattlemen's Association, Fremont Cattlewomen's Association, and other meat producers, and supporting the local ranching industry. Whereas the governor of Colorado has proclaimed a boycott of meat products, referred to as a meat out, in order to promote meatless diet as promoted by the farm animal rights movement, to be observed by Coloradans on March 20th of 2021. And whereas beef and other meat production has historically been and continues to be one of the key economic drivers in Fremont County. And whereas Fremont Cattlemen's Association, Fremont Cattle Women's Association, and our ranching families are part of a $3.4 billion state industry with a $40 billion economic impact, which accounts for 10% of the state's total export sales. And whereas employment in the agriculture sector and related industries provides jobs to more than 1,400 Fremont County citizens, the majority of which are involved in ranching and livestock production. And whereas beef and other meat production is an abundant agricultural powerhouse with 38,900 farms spread across 31.8 million acres in Colorado, with our farmers and ranchers working tirelessly 365 days a year to produce commodities for both the state and the entire nation. And whereas the 2020 through 2025 dietary guidelines issued by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration recognizes that a variety of animal and plant proteins is important to a healthy diet. And whereas Fremont County is declared a right to farm and ranch county and has taken regulatory steps to protect our active farms and ranches. And whereas the Colorado General Assembly is considering passage of Senate Bill 21-079, which concerns deregulation of direct-to-customer meat sales in support of ranch to private table enterprise. Now therefore be it resolved that the Fremont County Board of County Commissioners in Fremont County, Colorado declares our support for our cattlemen and other meat producers and proclaims March 20th, 2021 as Fremont County Cattlemen's Day. Be it further resolved that the Commission expresses our concern that the Governor of Colorado would call for a boycott, even of a one-day duration, of an industry that is key and essential to both our local and state economies. And be it further resolved that this Commission supports Senate Bill 21-079 concerning deregulation of direct-to-customer meat sales in support of ranch-to-table private enterprise and all other legislative actions that support strengthening Colorado agriculture. And with that reading, Mr. Chair, I am proud to move to accept Resolution Number 14, recognizing the many past and current contributions of the Fremont Cattlemen's Association, the Fremont Cattle Women's Association, and other meat producers, and supporting the local ranching industry here in Fremont County.
Second.
Jump on that.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve Resolution Number 14, recognizing the contributions of Fremont cattlemen, Fremont cattle women, and other meat producers supporting the local ranching industry. Any further discussion? I have a little bit of discussion. There are right now 22 other counties in the state of Colorado that have passed a similar resolution, and those numbers are growing. And I ask you, what's for dinner? Beef, right?
I think we all know the answer to that one.
Not just on the 20th, just about every day. But I also think, whether it was meant to be or not, that it was a direct attack on the agriculture industry, and kind of find it insulting, actually. It's the second time that our governor's done that to the agriculture industry, and it's a huge part of my life, but of the state of Colorado and Fremont County as well. So, any other discussion?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. As Commissioner Bell was reading our proclamation, the resolution number 14, I'm sitting here reading the governor's proclamation. And both Commissioners Bell and you, Mr. Chair, have indicated, the attack on certainly our cattle industry and meat industries, not just cattle, but for all of us that were hog farmers at one point in time, or every other kind of meat, I think it is a little bit of a poke in the eye towards all of us. But as I read his proclamation, I I'm going to use a term of art here, in the political art. It's a bunch of gobbledygook. It basically makes eating meat products, eating meat, akin to putting everyone at risk for heart disease, high blood pressure, stroke, cancers, diabetes. Meanwhile, the plant-based diet protects the environment, reduces our carbon footprint, and preserving forests. So there you go. Grasslands, wildlife habitats, and reduces pollution of waterways. Well, like I said, gobbledygook. It is a poke in the eye, and it is more than just a poke in the eye to the beef industry and all the meat industries. It's a poke in the eye again to rural Colorado, which we've seen over and over again from this administration. When you govern with Boulder and Denver in mind, this is the kind of product you get. And we're the ones out here that are reeling and need the support of those in charge up there, and we're getting exactly the opposite of that. And no one would expect less, honestly, from what we're seeing out of Denver. And this crosses all sorts of different aspects of what we have to deal with and govern with, including our responses to COVID and the one-size-fits-all approach to everything, which we'll also see in the next resolution when we get to that, probably after our public hearings. In any case, I heartily support this resolution, and hopefully we can maybe send a copy of this after we get it done to the governor.
Gladly. Commissioner Bell.
I do have one more thing I would like to say. The three of us, as we sit here before you, we are well-known, very conservative people who believe in smaller government, not larger government. And I'm here to tell you, I do not want or need my government to tell me what or how to eat.
I don't even know what to say with that one, but I agree. Yeah. I think it's interesting that you guys may have seen it on the internet. They have this fake meat, I don't even know how they call it meat, but fake meat substitute, whatever you want to call it. But it's got 10 or 12 ingredients, and it's plant-based. So there's a chromosome or whatever in there from a plant someplace, but it's got all this other stuff in it. What's in beef? Beef. So
One ingredient.
I don't know if you want to add all that other, whatever it is that's in that stuff to your body, feel free. I mean, more than happy to watch you eat it, I guess. But
and tacking on to Commissioner Bell's point on not being told what to eat, as far as that goes, you can pick any day of the year and you can eat whatever you want to eat. I don't care. You can eat a car battery as far as I'm concerned. You can eat plants all day, every day. But the fact of the matter is, when you use a bully pulpit up in Denver to take a side swipe at the industry that matters to most of Colorado, then we're going to take a stab back, and here it is.
And I do know that a lot of restaurants are gearing up for the 20th because they're expecting to sell lots of beef. We have a lot of restaurants that do sell local beef. I urge everybody to get out and support these local restaurants and order a steak or hamburger or whatever the case may be. Any further discussion? So we have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 14, which is recognizing the Fremont cattlemen, Fremont cattlewomen, and other meat producers. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bell.
I will respond with a hearty, resounding, and beefy aye.
Commissioner McFall.
Beefy aye as well. Aye.
Commissioner Grantham.
Just a plain old eye.
Just a plain old aye.
Motion carries.
All right. That's good. Thank you. So we are nearing the hour of 10 o'clock.
Just talk slowly here to introduce.
We do not have time to move on, so we'll start with our public hearings here in just a second, as soon as the clock.
Can I change my vote to a medium rare?
Medium rare.
If that's how you want to vote, I have no problem with that.
All right, as long as it's beef. All right, we're going to have, we have 3 public hearings scheduled for today. The first one is for yard crafters. It is a commercial development plan, and it is 10 o'clock, so we will start with that one. So the commercial development plan for yard crafters is approval of a commercial development plan, CDP 20-001 for yard crafters for a contractor's yard for lawn care and landscaping business. The site is located on the corner of Red Canyon and High and is zoned industrial. We will need a resolution for this. That'll be number 15. I got ahead of myself on the other one.
You got too
And
excited.
we have Matt Koch here to represent yard crafters. Yeah. I will open this public hearing. Hello, Matt.
Morning.
Good morning. We are here to request approval of the contractor's yard. This is for yard crafters. They're an existing business. They're located on 4 Mile Lane right now. They are planning on building a metal building and then using the rest of the yard as their supply yard where they would stockpile their landscaping materials. We have met all of the requirements. All the contingencies, I believe, are taken care of. The driveway access permit has been approved. And I believe the drainage has been taken care of as well. Other than that, if you have any questions.
Any questions for Matt?
Not
yet,
at this time.
At this time? No? Okay, I'd ask for a staff report. Sean, good morning.
Good morning. The application is complete and a true representation of the request, and all required notifications have occurred. The drainage plan was revised, submitted, and approved so that it's no longer a contingency for it. All contingencies have been met for the proposal. The applicant is requesting 3 waivers. The first is hard surfacing of the parking area. The department does not have any concerns with this waiver request. The second is landscaping of the parking area. The landscaping requirement is generally tied to if it's going to be hard surfaced, paved to kind of break up the expansion of it. So the department has no concerns with that. The final request is a waiver from the buffer requirements for all the boundaries. There is a wood fence along the southern boundary, which is the only boundary adjacent to a residence. So the department does not have any concerns with the request for not having to buffer the remainder of the property. There are 3 recommended conditions for this. The first is installation of a hydrant as requested by the Canyon City Fire District. The second is that the fencing be installed at an angle at the intersection of Red Canyon and High Street Road to not interfere with visual aspects for traffic. And the third is an easement be established for the drainage channel located along the eastern boundary, and the applicant is in agreement to those conditions.
Okay.
I do have a couple of questions for Sean. First of all, Sean, I apologize. You were talking just really quickly to begin with. I believe you said one of those contingencies has been met. Which one was that?
The drainage plan has been approved.
Okay, thank you. And you also mentioned one of those sides is bounded by a residence, and I believe the other 3 are really an industrial sort of.
Yes, so the only residence is located along the southern boundary. The rest of it is all zoned industrial, with the exception across the street to the west, which is agricultural space, but that property is owned by the city of Canyon City, and their intent there is for drainage.
Okay, thank you, Sean.
So the access permit, I think Matt said that they'd gotten it. Have you received that?
Yes, we have issued the address for that, and then the access permit has been taken care of.
So both contingencies are taken care of?
Yes.
Okay. Any further questions at this point?
Yeah, just real quick, Mr. Chair, the hydrant that's required by the fire district, is that pretty typical? I mean, as far as requiring additional fire hydrants in these sorts of situations, and Matt, you might be aware on that as well. Because I was looking on the map and there's seems to be no shortage of fire hydrants right there in the immediate area. Either one of you.
So it's my understanding per talks with Ron with the fire department, for commercial development, they request that a fire hydrant be located within a certain amount of feet of that development, which I believe is 400. And so I don't believe the remainders of the fire hydrants in that area are within that distance.
Okay, all right.
As I told you guys, I think the other day, the pictures that we have in here are not consistent anymore. It's been leveled off, and the piles of stuff that had been piled there are all gone, so the lot is clean, actually. Looks really good, actually.
Yeah, they got rid of all the concrete debris and everything on the site, so it looks really good right now.
Any further questions for Matt or Sean? Okay, this is a public hearing, so if there is anyone who wishes to speak on this topic, now is the time.
Don't run.
Okay, seeing none, I will close this public hearing and ask the commissioners if they have any other concerns or entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, if I get to the right screen here, I would move for approval of, what did we say, resolution number
15.
Number 15, the matter regarding yard crafters. I don't have other detail here.
Commercial Development 20-001.
Thank you. That one.
And then we have some waivers that they're requesting.
And conditions as well.
Waivers for hard surface landscaping and buffering, and then the conditions, which were the fire hydrant. And I already closed it.
Yeah.
The
same.
fencing and an easement for drainage.
I think I've never done this before.
Well, you are still the
And
new
adding
guy.
to that, that motion, the contingencies have already been taken care of.
Correct.
So adding to that, the conditions as part of that motion and the waiver requests.
I'll second that.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to approve CDP 20-001 for yard crafters with the waivers of hard surfacing, landscaping, and buffering, and also the conditions to install a hydrant requested by Kansas City Fire District, the fencing to be installed at an angle to not disrupt the visual aspects of traffic, and an easement to be established to the drainage located along the eastern boundary. Any further discussion? And this is resolution number 15. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Grantham.
Aye.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, public hearing number 2 is an SRU for 20-001 Howard Creek Farm, requesting approval of a special review use for a rural recreation facility to host wedding events. The property is located at 356 County Road 4 in Howard and is zoned agricultural rural. This will be resolution number 16. And we have Orlin and Allison Camerlo. Orlin's coming up. Good morning.
And there's Ally, too.
And there's Allie. I will open this public hearing.
How are you guys?
Good, great, good to see you guys.
We're back. Thank you guys so much. Just to get Commissioner Grantham up to speed. We've been under temporary use for 3 years. Launched last year, did 7 weddings, which was great for what it was. Thanks to the county for working with us on that. So working with Sean over in planning, we decided to do the special review use and finalize that after the 3 years of being under temporary use. So as mentioned, it's a wedding venue on the Arkansas River. We built a 1861 historic barn out of Indiana, and we can do up to 200 people at weddings there on the farm. And our intent is to do 18 to 20. It's only open May to October due to weather, and we didn't do any fancy insulation or anything on the barn, so it's very historically accurate. And got a whole plan that we've submitted and have it all dialed in now, so we're just ready to roll, if you guys will let us.
All right, any questions for him as of yet?
No, not a question, really, just a comment. I had the opportunity to speak with Ally a couple of months ago, and I understand that you're pretty solidly booked already for 2021.
We are. We have 15 weddings booked for this year. We've already booked 5 for next year, and inquiries are coming in all the time. So, it's
And
exciting.
if anyone has never been there, it is a beautiful place to host such an event, so.
It is, even just driving by and looking at it, it's
Yeah.
pretty
Thanks.
fabulous, yeah.
Yeah. The two of you have done an amazing job up there.
Thank you so much.
You gotta get a staff report, please.
The application is complete and a true representation of the request and all required notifications have occurred. As the applicant has stated, they have operated under a issuance of a temporary use permit for 3 years. During that time, we have not had any violations or complaints regarding the use of their property. They are requesting 3 waivers. The first is hard surfacing of the parking area. Due to the nature of it and that they bus in, very little parking will occur on site, so the department has no concerns with that. The other would be the landscaping of the parking area. The property is landscaped as a whole altogether, and they intend to keep it that way. The last request is they are requesting approval for use of a restroom trailer and chemical toilets to address sanitation. That was approved with their temporary use permits, and we have not had any issues or concerns with that. As the nature of it is going to be limited during the year, again, we don't have any concerns. And the department is recommending 2 conditions with that. One is that the applicants just provide proof of proper disposal and pumping of restroom facilities, and that parking along County Road 4 is prohibited.
Okay, any questions for Sean? Any questions for Sean? Turn my mic on.
Is there, as far as the proof of proper disposal, Sean, is there a frequency to that?
We can do that annually as part of the annual review.
Okay.
You guys, I assume, are going to lease, if this is approved, lease the same one that you've done in the past. It's not just your typical blue box sitting over there. It's that fancier little
Yeah, we purchased
system.
that, yeah, and then we do bring in a handicap accessible blue porta potty.
Okay. Any further questions at this time?
So we have 3 waivers, 1 contingency, 2 conditions. Is that correct, Sean?
There's no contingencies for the
Oh, so the drainage plan has been.
the drainage plan
approved?
has been
Okay.
approved. Yeah.
All right. Nope, no further questions.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so if there's anyone who would like to speak on this topic, now is the time. They're rushing up again. Okay, seeing none, I will close this public hearing and ask the commissioners their wishes.
Sure, Mr. Chair. I believe the Howard Creek Farm has been an incredible addition to Fremont County. I think that you're helping in your own way with tourism here. You bring outside people who take a look and want to come back to Fremont County. And you've done it in a very, very special way. As Sean did mention, we have had no complaints. We've had no problems with anything happening out there. And we really thank you for that. We don't always get to hear that, so it makes us happy when we do. So with that, Mr. Chair, I move to approve SRU 20-011 for Howard Creek Farm. This is a rural recreational facility that will host wedding events. This will be resolution number 16, and the motion does include the 3 waivers as discussed, hard surfacing and landscaping of the parking area, as well as allowing the restroom trailer with the chemical toilets, and the conditions of providing proof of proper disposal and pumping of those facilities, as well as prohibiting parking along the roadway.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to approval of SRU 20-011 for Howard Creek Farms with the waivers and conditions as specified. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Commissioner Grantham.
Aye.
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, guys. Hope you have a great season.
Yes, good luck. Thanks.
The third public hearing we have is SRU 20-010, Desert Reef Hot Springs modification, requesting approval of a major modification to an existing CUP, which is 90-012, to include conversion of the existing CUP to a special review use. The original approval of the CUP occurred prior to the regulation change. The current and proposed modification are uses that fall within the SRU category due to the department has converted it to an SRU. The property is zoned agriculture forestry and will be resolution number 17. And we have Chris McLaughlin.
Yep.
Good morning.
Morning.
This is a public hearing, so let me open the public hearing and you're on.
Yep, this is just, as you said, a request to approve the conversion from a CUP to an SRU. It's essentially a 35-year-old business that's been in the community for a long time, and we're looking to update it to essentially be a travel RV park and campground, small scale, not not very large, and continue operating business as is.
Okay, any questions for Chris right now?
Not at this time.
Can I get a staff report, please?
The request is a true representation of the request stated herein. As read before and stated, the current operation is under a CUP, which was renewed shortly ago for life of use. Both uses are SRU, so we will be converting that. There is one waiver request, which is hard surface of the parking areas, and that does exclude the ADA spots, which will be hard surfaced. There is one contingency, and that is to provide comments and documents from Evraz that the additional traffic over the bridge that spans the Minnequaw Canal is acceptable, and they don't have any concerns with that additional traffic over the bridge. Outside of the existing conditions set forth in the original resolution for the CUP, the department is recommending that requirements as submitted and agreed upon by FCDOT regarding the roadway, which is addition of speed limit signs on County Road 110, signs at the Cattle Gate, narrow bridge, and weight restrictions. And in the event that considerable dust is generated and documented, Desert Reef LLC agrees to spray the section of County Road 110 up to the access easement. The second is provide proof of approval of additional well or conversion when that occurs. The third is proof that 5 CCR 100-35 from the Colorado Department of Public Health regulations, which has to do with the pool, are adhered to, and that any documents on that be submitted upon request. The fourth is that signs be posted at the bridge indicating weight restrictions and narrow bridge. And the fifth is that repairs to the bridge be completed as noted in the bridge assessment report dated November 19th, 2020.
A lot of conditions.
But I also,
stuff.
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go on. Go for it.
I just was going to say, we also do have the note here that the applicant does agree to those conditions.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
And so, and then in reference to the contingencies, I spoke to Evraz, so we have a verbal approval for the increased traffic now, and we're working on an agreement for updating the bridge. Technically, I believe the cost is their responsibility. We're willing to work with them to we're not looking to increase the capacity, just bring it back up to its original capacity.
Okay, any further questions or comments?
Not yet.
Okay, thanks. This is a public hearing, so I will open this up. If there's anyone from the public who would like to speak on this modification of Desert Reef Hot Springs. Okay, last chance. Seeing none, I will close this public hearing and ask the commissioners if there's any further discussion or entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I would move for approval of Resolution 17. They're requesting approval of a major modification to the existing CUP 90-012, including the conversion of the existing CUP to the special review use, including the waiver requests, contingencies, and conditions.
Okay, and that
As
is
recommended by the staff.
And that is SRU 20-010.
Yes.
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded for approval of SRU 20-010 for Desert Reef Hot Springs modification, converting from a CUP to an SRU. The original CUP was 90-012, along with the waiver requests, contingencies, and conditions mentioned before. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Grantham.
Aye.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, that is the end of the public hearing, so now we will go back to item number, where were we? Item number 3. Item number 3 is a resolution opposing legislation now pending in the 117th Congress of the United States. We have had a lot of people reach out to us and feel strongly amongst the three of us as well that there's another attack on our constitutional rights, and this one namely being our Second Amendment rights. We have a resolution that the Fremont County Board of Commissioners, Fremont County, Colorado, oppose the legislation pending in the 117th Congress of the United States. In this resolution, there's a bunch of whereases I'm going to skip, but they talk about Supreme Court cases, talking about the Second Amendment rights. The Colorado State Constitution, which provides persons certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, and acquiring, processing, and protecting property. Article 13 of the Constitution of Colorado provides a right for no person, or provides that the right of no person to keep and bear arms in defense of home, person, or property in the aid of civil power thereto legally summoned shall call into question. The Constitution of Colorado provides that people shall be secure in their person, papers, home, and effects from unreasonable search and seizure. Colorado Constitution provides private property shall not be taken or damaged, or public or private use without compensation, which the Colorado Supreme Court has indicated includes legal interference with physical use, possession, disposition, or enjoyment of property, including temporarily. And whereas is the desire of this board to declare its support for the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution and the Colorado Constitution, protecting citizens' inalienable and individual rights to keep and bear arms. And whereas the members of this board took an oath to support and defend the United States Constitution, the Constitution of the State of Colorado, and the laws of the State of Colorado insofar that they are constitutional. And whereas the Board of County Commissioners of Fremont, a political subdivision of the State of Colorado, is aware that this legislation is now pending in the 117th Congress of the United States of America, commonly referred to as the BOCC Firearm Licensing and Registration Act, H.R. 127. And whereas it is unanimous opinion of the board that H.R. 127, as proposed, reflects a clear violation of constitutional principle reflected herein, and the proposed legislation is, if the proposed legislation is passed, the provision shall be enforced in Fremont County until such time the court of competent jurisdiction has ruled it unconstitutionally. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Fremont County, by authorization granted by the Board Law of the State of Colorado and the people of Fremont County, Colorado, to stand and defend the rights and liberties which are granted by the United States and Colorado Constitution, we hereby declare and reject the proposed H.R. 127 BOCC Firearm Licensing Registration Act and declare it an unconstitutional violation of the rights of citizens of Fremont County to keep and bear arms. Be it further resolved that this board affirms its support for the duly elected sheriff of Fremont County, Colorado, in the exercise of his sound discretion, and affirmed it resolves the support decision of our sheriff to not interfere in any unconstitutional firearm law against citizens. Be it further resolved that the board will not authorize, appropriate government funds, resources, employees, agencies, contractors, building, detention centers, or offices for the purpose of enforcing an unconstitutional infringes on the right of the people to keep and bear arms. Wow, that was a mouthful.
I'd say easy for you to say, but it really
Yeah, it wasn't
really.
easy for me to say. And with that, I would move to approve resolution number 18, which is opposition in the pending 117th Congressional Delegation of the United States.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 17, opposing proposed legislation now pending in the 117th Congress of the United States. Any further discussion?
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. So, for the benefit of those folks that are still in the room and for those that might be looking at the video at some point or watching online, this is H.R. 127. It's not very long, but it is it's significant in what it's actually trying to do. And I think it's important to point out some of the things that this resolution is opposing. This is effectively firearm licensing, firearm registration. This is everything that we as Second Amendment advocates have been fighting against for decades. I spent a great deal of my time up in Denver fighting against the same kind of stuff. This is the kind of stuff they tried to pass, and they did in part in 2013, all the gun grabbers. And not to put too fine a point on it, but it is the only point that it ever accomplishes is taking away rights of gun owners. It never accomplishes the stated goal of saving people and protecting people. Quite the opposite. If you look at the stats, the firearm incidents or gun-related deaths only seem to go up with more restrictions placed upon law-abiding gun owners. Putting guns more in the hands of criminals than in those that would seek to protect themselves. This House Resolution 127 is not just a firearm registration system, it's also going to go after ammunition. It's calling for a database, another thing that we continue to fight against when it's our right within the Constitution to be able to own firearms and bear firearms. A database flies in the face of our freedom to do that. This even asks for licensure for displaying an antique firearm. An antique firearm, if you want to display it above your fireplace on your mantle, you have to have a second license, according to this legislation, in order to do that. Not only do you have to hold the license to display the antique, you also have to hold the original license to actually own it in the first place. Then there's always this nebulous description of military-style weapons, you know, the scary black guns. That's what we're talking about there. Oh, and you're going to be required to have a psychological evaluation. And guess who is the standard keeper for that psychological evaluation? The Attorney General of the United States. Because people that hold that position are noted for their mental and emotional stability. Where do I continue here? I know, Mr. Chair, you probably got a lot you want to say about this as well, but I must go on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're covering all of this. It's ludicrous is what it is. There's so much junk in there.
And we kind of talked about this briefly in private, but the penalties.
Yeah,
penalties for this. If I do not get a license to own the firearm, and if I do not register my existing firearms, which are all, as we maybe not so jokingly say, at the bottom of a lake somewhere, the penalty for these begins with $75,000 to $150,000 penalty for not having a firearm licensed, and 15 to 25 years in prison.
And I believe it starts at no less than $75,000 and no more than, and no less than 10 years and no more than.
Exactly. Yeah. Starts at $75,000 up to $150,000. And that's just for that one aspect of the law. There's also other parts of this legislation that would require similar hefty fines to the tune of between $50,000 to $150,000, and anywhere from 5 to 25 years in probably a special guest of the federal government right out here in Florence. So at least you don't have to move very far. It's prohibition of possession of certain ammunition. Not only are they going to go after the guns, they're going to go after the ammunition. As if it wasn't hard enough to find on the shelves right now, this would only make it impossible, which I think is really the end game here, is to separate us from not only our weapons, but separate our weapons from our ammunition. Prohibiting possession of ammunition 50 caliber or greater. unlawful for any person to possess a large capacity ammunition feeding device. We fought this in 2013. From bottom to top in this state, Second Amendment advocates. And the nebulous term large capacity. And here they actually define it as 10 rounds. Well, I just think about that arsenal of yours that is at the bottom of the lake.
That you used to have. Yeah.
That I used to have. And how many of your magazines actually hold 10 or less? I would probably say not too many of them. And again, here's, if you are caught with owning one of these, then it is a $50,000 to $100,000 fine and imprisonment from 10 to 20 years. This is one of the largest assaults on our Second Amendment rights that I've seen them do, and unfortunately we have a real chance of seeing something like this happen and pass and get signed into law. And so I think it's really important to note our resolved paragraphs in this resolution, because what's at stake here is whether or not we as commissioners will support our sheriff and our law enforcement in this county to not enforce any sort of federal legislation that would be such a blatant disregard for our Second Amendment rights. And we do offer that support to our sheriff and all of our law enforcement to not enforce these unconstitutional firearms infringements. And so, thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving me time to bloviate on that.
Much like our governor who's selling beef, every time these things come up, the guns and ammunition go through the roof, and therefore we can't find either most of the time. So that tells you a lot about Second Amendment rights advocates. Commissioner Bell, any further discussion?
I would just add one thing briefly, if I may. That I think bills like this make our founding fathers literally roll over in their graves. We have had 4 presidents be assassinated by gunshot. President Abraham Lincoln, President James Garfield, President William McKinley, and we probably all remember President John F. Kennedy. Even President Kennedy believed in the Second Amendment. He believed that it was right and what should continue to happen here in this United States of America. He was quoted in April of 1960 as saying, "I believe the Second Amendment will always be important." And so for those reasons, as well as the many others that already have been stated, I also am in full support of this resolution.
If you all remember, back in February of 2019, we passed a similar resolution against the now law in Colorado, which is called the red flag law. It was a stance in the same manner as to I still feel an unconstitutional law because it takes away due process and several different things, violates about 4 constitutional rights. So again, just taking a stand, I ask that everybody watching or listening reaches out to your senators and congressmen and hopes that they have enough sense to vote against this and that it doesn't pass. So we have a motion and a second to approve this resolution number 18, opposing the legislation now pending in the 117th Congress of the United States. Can I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Commissioner Grantham.
Aye.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. This one won't be quite as passionate and close to the heart. So number 4.
Before we move on
Yes,
there,
sir.
Mr. Chair, if I could make the suggestion that we send that signed and passed resolution to all 9 of our congressmen and senators and to our 3 representatives and senator in Denver as well.
Absolutely. I agree. We'll make that happen. All right, item number 4 is assignment and assumption of it for a lease of hangar number 11 at the Fremont County Airport from Greg Thibodeau to Michael Ketchmeyer. There is a I guess we'll call it a contingency on this. The transfer has not been complete yet, so the contingency will be subject to the transfer closing. Mr. Thibodeau is part owner on this, and he's selling out on it. Okay. It's pretty straightforward. Is there anything we need to add to that, Sunny? It's from Brenda.
I heard from the attorney handling the transfer of the hangar yesterday, who indicated it hasn't closed yet, and so this approval, if done by the board, would be subject to them finally closing that deal.
Okay. Okay, Commissioners, entertain discussion or motion.
Sure, Mr. Chair, this does look pretty straightforward to me. I think all parties are in agreement. So I move to approve the assignment and assumption of the lease for Hangar 11 at the Fremont County Airport from Greg Tabuteau to Michael L. Kachmar, subject to the transfer closing.
Second.
Has been moved and seconded to approve the assumption of lease for hangar number 11, Fremont County Airport, from Greg Thibodeau to Michael Kachmar. Any further discussion with the contingency? Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Commissioner Grantham.
Aye.
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Motion carries.
The next item on the agenda is an appointment of a member to the Fremont County Heritage Commission with the term expiring December 31st, 2023. We did receive a letter from Cindy McPhail, who is interested in serving on that committee. Any discussion or a motion?
Mr. Chair, I would move that we approve Ms. Cindy McPhail to be on the Fremont County Heritage Commission for a term expiring December 31st, 2023.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve Cindy McPhail's becoming a member of the Fremont County Heritage Commission, term expiring December 31st, 2023. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Grantham.
Aye.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, item number 6 is an abatement hearing for Michelle and Brian Tate, Jewel of the Canyons. Oh, do you want to talk about this, Stacy? I'm going to let her. Ms. Tate, you want to come up and tell us what you're requesting here? Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Thank you for being so patient. We've had a lot of business this morning.
Oh, no problem. It was very interesting. I think I'll come to more meetings.
All right.
We'd love to have you.
So we had to close our business in 2020 due to COVID. And I think our last guests were the Blossom judges in March. So I'm asking that I don't have to pay taxes on the business from April through the end of the year, and just as residential.
So, were you able to apply for any of the COVID relief funds or anything?
No.
Through either the government or
because
through us?
PPO was, or
PPP.
PPP, I don't have employees, it's just me.
Were you aware of the ones that we offered at the county from the $2.2 million that we had, or from the city? They also had $1.4 million or something like that. They were offering businesses for expenses due to COVID, and then eventually, after the federal government got it together, we were able to distribute some for lost revenues even.
No, I wasn't aware of any of that, but we just, if I would have taken all that, I had nobody that was wanting to stay. Everyone canceled all their reservations. By May, we normally had like 250 reservations for the season. I had 10, and it was like, I have all these expenses, and I have no revenue coming in. So it was like, we had to kind of make a decision.
So were you still advertising through after you claimed you closed in March?
No. I had to give, all the people that did have reservations had called. I was in contact with them. They were like, we may come, we may not. And most of them canceled, and then I think there were 4 people that I had to end up calling and saying, we're not going to be in business anymore. I can't take the chance.
So the assessor classified the properties January 1st, 2020 per state statute. And of course, that was before COVID hit.
Correct. And they did come out in, I believe it was June, and now I'm totally residential. They changed it.
So it has been changed to residential?
Excuse me while I shuffle over.
So, may I interject?
Absolutely.
So I think we'll get this talked about by the assessor here shortly, but so it has already been, as of January 1st, reclassified to residential? Or
It was June of 2020.
June?
Someone came out, I can't remember the gal that came out.
It wasn't reclassified.
Let's let Stacy, if you'll step up. Let
and-
Stacy have the microphone there for a second, and let's get that question answered.
All right.
Okay, so we did send somebody out after Mrs. Tate called in and said that they had closed down the business, so we sent somebody out to verify, and that was in June. Corrected any errors we had on the account, et cetera, et cetera. The classification of the property was not changed until January 1st of 21 because I'm not allowed to. The classification is my assessment date of January 1st of every year. It was a commercial bed and breakfast on January 1st of 2020. And it was that until the Tates closed it down at some point in 2020. And it really doesn't matter what the date was. If it was after January 1st, I cannot change that classification until the following year. The only people that can change a classification like that is the state when they're granting an exemption to a religious or charitable property. That's it. There are no other exceptions to that rule.
And quick question for you,
Sure.
Stacy, I'm sorry to interrupt, but while you're on that topic.
It's okay.
You talk about you're not allowed to make that change mid-year. I would believe that's through state statute, is that correct?
Absolutely. It's
Okay,
a statutory requirement.
thank you.
Yes. And it was, at January 1st of 2021, the property was reclassified as 100% residential.
Okay, thank you. That answer your question?
Yes, yeah. So what's at issue is, can this board actually change a classification? And I think the answer is no. I don't think we can do that. I'm trying to think my way through this. I think there's a larger problem here. You know, we can't, I'm not sure we can legally do what you're asking us to do. The other problem that I see arise here is that we open a Pandora's box here. Money was available through the city, through the county, to help in these sorts of situations, but we can't change statute here in order to accommodate this one situation that could turn into multiple situations of people wanting abatement for taxes for whatever reason, whether it's a shutdown or whether it's a change from a commercial business use to a residential use in this case, or in other situations. And so I'm having difficulty with the request, I guess, and what that could mean across the board in Fremont County. I certainly understand the plight. There's a lot of folks going through some pretty heavy stuff right now. I'm not sure doing this is best for all of the taxpayers of Fremont County. And I got to think about all of them when we're up here sitting in this position. So.
And I do know that the first of the year started out rougher after March. After that, our lodging tax was huge. There were people coming and staying. One quarter was bigger than we've ever had on lodging tax. So there were people coming through and staying at all places, bed and breakfast, hotels, campgrounds, everything. So it was pretty, they didn't want to stay home anymore. They were tired of staying home, I think is what the deal was. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I would just like to, I guess, recognize 2020 was an incredibly difficult year for all of us. I think we all know, our entire world changed in March of 2020, a year ago. And we're still looking for it to go back to what it used to be. Having said those things, I agree with Commissioner Grantham that we are not able to override state statute. I don't think that we have the ability actually to grant this petition to you. And so for those reasons, Mr. Chair, I would go ahead and move for denial of the petition for abatement or a refund of taxes for Michelle and Brian Tate for Jewel of the Canyons.
And I will second that, Mr. Chair, and add on as well that if we were able to change statute, I've got a long list of stuff, but I will second that.
Unfortunately, there is a long list. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded for denial of the request for property tax. Any further discussion?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Can I take this to the state? And if so?
Yes.
I think so, yeah.
Who would I contact or?
There should be instructions, if there's not, I'll get them for you.
Okay.
That you can carry this to the Board of Assessment Appeals.
Okay.
You can take it to district court, or you can take it to mediation.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, if you could get that to me, that would be great. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Commissioner Grantham.
Aye.
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, having no more business before us, we are adjourned.